Welcome fellow gamers to Dwarf Fortress. It is out. This is the Steam version. I've already done like a tutorial of the tutorial, really just covering the basics, but let's get into an actual let's play with a bit of a tutorial bent to it, and we'll just sort of rip into this, I think. And it's one of these things where I was asking people watching the live stream as to what they would prefer to see. Would they prefer to be playing a difficult start where it's going to be more story driven, or would they prefer me to be doing a let's play with a bit more tutorial type content? And it was overwhelmingly for tutorial type content, but it still has a let's play. So that's what this series is going to be. It's going to be sort of like my old, the way I used to sort of do like the various sort of let's plays I used to sort of play probably a year or two back, maybe even a bit longer than that. I've certainly had a lot of different series of Dwarf Fortress over the years. And so this will be where I explain things. It may annoy some of you, I guess, at different times. Feel free to let me know, like if it does. Probably actually, and before I start, I do want to sort of thank anyone that has supported me over the years, or that just does support me over the years. Like thanks to my Patreon supporters. I mean, really, it's so valuable having you guys help me with that. And also, if you do want to get any merchandise, I'm not actually wearing any of them. I'm wearing a shirt that I made, but it's not for me as such. So there's merchandise links in the description. Also, in the description down below, there is actually a link to my coffee.com store. And if you are wanting to have the world generation that I'm going to be using in this particular, not the actual specific world, but if you want the algorithm that I use for world generation, you can grab it for free from that link. So that link will actually then have it in there. If I could make it into a Steam workshop, I will or would, but I can't find a way at this, and I have looked, I can't find a way to have the those sorts of initial things actually classified as a mod. I just can't find it anywhere. So it's not onerous to actually change it. I've got very detailed instructions how to sort of put it into the existing Dwarf Fortress, but that's what we'll be playing. So anyway, thank you for your support. I do really appreciate it. It really is hard without the support that you guys do provide for me to sort of justify doing these sort of videos. So I do appreciate that that support. Let's get started. So we'll just go into create new world. And as I say, this will be more, I'm going to explain little things. I'm going to be trying to give you some clues and some tips and some other little things that you may not think about when you're playing the game. The first thing, the absolute most important thing comes where the game actually does promote this, is that the game is about the fun is losing is fun, essentially, is what it does sort of say. So embrace the loss. And by the way, if your fortress is destroyed, remember you can go back with another set of dwarves and retake it back. So you don't, like a lost fortress is not a lost fortress. It's lost for that group that went there. You can come back again with another group and grab it. So just be aware of that. And in fact, I'll show you this when we get set up, because it's the same process about reclaiming, about sort of going into ruins, etc., etc. There's actually all these different ways of starting the game. I'll try to cover a fair few of these in this episode. We won't go into the actual game as such. I'm going to make this one about getting started in Dwarf Fortress. And if you do actually have specific questions, please feel free to come to my Discord server. That's probably the one area that I do actually check. I check that more than anything. But also, if you do interact with the video, I'm sure that if I don't answer questions, there will be other people that will then answer anybody's questions about how to play the game. I know it's a scary game if you're not used to it. All I can tell you is that this version of the game, the Steam version of the game, goes so much further to actually being able to bridge the gap and bring people towards the game, so you can actually embrace the gameplay and not fight with the user interface. There's still a lot of little gotchas. There's still a lot of little things you can do that you may not be aware of, and I will try to explain those as we go through this series. Also, I'll just sort of say that one of the things I really want the series to be about is about mechanizing the fortress, building machines, getting mine carts, and getting all those sort of more intricate things going as well. So I'm going to make this, it will be a tutorial, and particularly initially, it'll be about getting started. It'll be about getting security of the fortress up as high as you can, and then we'll have some fun with machines after we get established. Okay, so let's get into it. Create new world. Just going to click on OK. Now, by all means, if you want to play the default, play the default. And I'll just point out, the things that I really do like in the game is I like more history than just 100 years. This is a bit too shallow for me. I like to actually have a lot more going on historically, because I like the Legends mode. Some of you will only be wanting to play the game for the Fortress mode. They intermingle, and so I like to actually have access to both. So I would, if this was me playing this one, I'd be just clicking that one on to 250 years. I'd be changing the number of beasts to high, the natural savagery to high, and that would be sort of, I'd be happy with that. But anyway, we're not going to do that because I've got my own settings anyway, so I'm just going to go into detailed mode. I've got, like, by the way, this is where you can go to mycoffee.com link, which is down below in the description, unless you're watching this on a smart TV, in which case you have to go back into the back room, grab your computer, then look down at the description to then find out where the link actually is to coffee.com. You can get it for free, and as I say, it's a bit onerous to sort of install it. Not onerous, it's not just a single click. You do have to go and place it and to then have access to it. Anyway, once you go into detailed mode, by default, you've got large island, large region, medium island, etc., all the way through down to pocket. I've just added a couple of these on into mine. I've got the DAS Fantasyland and DAS Small and Savage. Now, Fantasyland is essentially like an aggressive version of one of these medium islands. So I'm just going to go and click on that one there. So we've now got the island in through there. What this one does is it generates more beasts. It makes the world more savage, and makes it a little bit more cold as well. Not dramatically cold, but just a little bit. It opens up the caverns so that you've actually got, instead of having like a honeycomb effect of all these different little sort of mazes running through the cavern layers, this one will actually give you bigger areas that makes it more usable. And so I find that more fun for me. Just like if you get things down there, it's a bit more open. Anyway, let's go and create the world. Before we go, I'm going to install a couple of mods. I've got audible alerts and also see-through smoothing. I'm just going to throw them in there. We'll just go back into detailed mode. So we do have DAS Fantasyland selected, and we now just create the world. And so what actually happens is it loads in the graphics and the object files. These are sort of like, these define what's going to happen in the game itself. And then once this is all actually in there, it will then start to generate the world. Now it will actually create a realistic style world. And so when we have a look at this one, and I try to let it go forward for about 100 years, which takes no time at all in this game. This is faster than it's ever been before from what I can remember. And so when we get up to around about this area, I'm just going to pause this. Just pause it, say there. And so what happens with the histories in through here is we get like a bit of a snippet of selected histories. Now, we've already had like a 55,000 different events, of which one of them happens to be in the year 110. The Hydra, run fresh gristles, the hardiness of keys, routed the flax of knights of the talent of accidents, and destroyed dance mornings. So there's actually a location here called Dance Mornings, and this destruction will become a ruin, as an example. So we've got all these different things, which we can go in and actually settle if we wanted to. We can actually go there and make that our mission. So yeah, Dance Mornings is a place that possibly will still be a ruin by the time we get to our 250 years. Now, what I like to do here is actually just you can either use the middle mouse button, which I find fairly smooth, or you can just go and use the WASD keys. Now, I'm looking for some specific things. Now, I normally am looking for difficult locations. At the moment, I'm actually looking for locations that we can play that will be very similar to the tutorial mode of the game, and so it'll be a fairly fun and simple way of actually playing the game. I'm looking for combinations of humans nearby, and got some humans down through here, humans in through there, goblins in through this side. So the goblins are like these blotches that you see. Elves, which are these sort of like these leaves, and they're usually just in the forest, and also some dwarves. Now, if we can get a dwarven tower in through there, happy days. And it just so happens with the algorithm that I use, I also generate volcanoes. So we've got like a volcano. This is the Rage of Wandering. We have another volcano up through here. This is the Stale Fire. Another one up through here as well, the Unserving Torch. This, for me, is an ideal location to focus on. As long as the goblins don't get overwhelmed, but there are other goblin pits back out through here. So over the next 150 odd years, these different, there'll be wars that will go on, there'll be ruins created, but this looks very, very interesting to me, and it does give us a wooded area which we can then settle into. Now, one of the things I will be trying to do is to find an aquifer to show you how to get through an aquifer. Now, the aquifers come in two flavors: light aquifers, which are your friends, and heavy aquifers, which I haven't found any. There we are. Heavy aquifers, which are not your friends, and so you don't want to be going through a heavy aquifer like what I've just done through here. And so the light aquifers that we have around here, I'll start in around here somewhere where we're close to everything. I won't do a volcano start. There's all sorts of different ways of playing the game, but anyway, let's just continue generating. So they'll then just continue on, and over time we'll sort of see they're growing and growing and growing. So beyond the 100 years, there's a lot that does go on here. The evil from this one will extend out a little bit, or it should. Yeah, it is. It's now pushing out into the forest. There's more goblin pits sort of starting to make their way through the forest as well. The elves haven't really grown at all. The dwarves have gone out into these hills, which is interesting as well. The goblins are fairly rampant down this way as well. Humans are actually holding their own. There's some roads now being established as the civilization sort of come up. We're getting little fortifications now coming up with the humans. We're getting dwarf fortifications back in through here. This goblin tower is still actually expanding its evil in the world, and so on and so forth. There's all these things that are actually happening just in this one little pocket. Oh, sorry, I'll just pause and point some other things out while we do this. The reason that I do this here is more not just so to find a place that I'm interested in, but also to evaluate the map. Now, at the moment, this is very, very playable because everybody is nearby. So this means that we're going to have interaction and a lot going on. So that's actually important. Back over here, you can see that this one is just all goblins. There's nothing else in through here. And so there would be no real interaction with elves or humans if you played over this side. In other places, we've got a little bit of everything. There's a tower there by the looks of things, or something is causing some issues in that area somewhere. I'm not sure what's causing that to be haunted and terrifying. Goblins up this way. There's a tower there again as well. So a dwarven necromancer tower. Elves. So this is actually not too bad. There's another tower. By the way, the algorithm is generating so much violence in this world. This is the way I like to actually play the games. But what we're doing, there's another tower in through there, for example. There's a whole lot of dwarves that have now sort of settled on the edge of the continent. Now, but one of the things I would always look for is to see if the continent is contiguous. So as long as it's all joined up, then that means that you can travel anywhere. If you end up, let's just say that this was actually its own little island, it means that you can't really connect easily between the island and the landmass. There is a way of doing it, but it comes down to luck. So I would reject that if that was the case. Usually, in this case, I wouldn't, because I'm already interested in this little area back over here. This looks very, very interesting to me. So anyway, let's just continue generating. Right, we're closing in on just the 250 years now, so this is nearly at the end. It then sort of offloads things. Let's talk a little bit about what we're sort of seeing through here. So this is the infinite land. There were 5 rejected before it sort of found the land that it was happy with, that the game was actually happy with. We went up to 250 years in the Age of Myth. Now, the different ages, and if you do play, like if you extend the time right out, you'll sort of find that it'll go through a whole lot of different ages. Now, the Age of Myth is really where the forgotten beasts and the titans are relevant and prevalent in the world, and sort of still doing sort of weird and wonderful things. You then go through a whole lot of other things like the Age of Heroes, Age of Civilizations. If there's one civilization that really, really does well at a particular point, it'll be the age of that civilization. There may be a really rampant dragon. It'll be the age of that dragon as well. So it's quite interesting when you know what's going on over here. But with the way that we're playing, I've never, with the aggression that we actually have overall, I've never seen this get out of Myth with my settings. Historical figures, we've got about 40,000, and we've got nearly 400,000 events in total. So I can just go to play now. By the way, I think play now. We can then sort of have a bit of a look, and I can then explain what to look for with your embarks. Okay, so we will ultimately have 3 different ways of playing the game. At the moment, we've got 2. well, Legends is not really playing the game. Legends is reading those 400,000 events, which combine in with the site locations, the regions that they're in, the historical figures, the interactions, the artifacts that are created. It's incredible the amount of depth that's actually in the game. Anyway, Legends will allow you to browse through those, whereas Fortress mode is actually what we're going to be playing, which is to build ourselves an actual fortification. But we're going to be embracing Legends as we play. For me, this really creates an incredible immersion to actually sort of go and have a look at the Legends when something interesting does happen and just track things back and think, wow, you know, because whenever you look at Legends after you've been playing the Fortress mode for a little while, it doesn't take very long to sort of have an event happen and then start reading the connections as to what actually went on in the preceding centuries that led to that event. And it's all connected. Like, this is not a random game in the sense that wildlife can come, you know, randomly out of the wildlife, but all of the forgotten beasts, all of the titans and all those sorts of things, they're all existing right now. It won't magically create one of those and pop it in your fortress. That will have a bent. Your fortress will attract attention. These things will start to come and hunt you. So they already exist in the world, though. There is already histories about them. We can sort of basically go and have a look at that when they do arrive. Even in the civilizations, anyone that's important in the civilization, the history has been written and recorded. And so when they come, there's a very good chance that we'll find information about them as well. And we can then start to sort of delve back and see, okay, well, you know, how did that history sort of work out? It's fascinating once you start to get into it. It is for me anyway. I'll try not to do too much of that, but God, I love doing that. I love just going off and reading about these histories that have been procedurally generated, but they make sense. Everything makes sense in this game. I hope I'm infecting some of you with this. I don't need many of you to. I don't need many of you to actually be infected for me to feel like I've got a bit of a win, because I know most of you probably won't feel that way. But for me, this is like. When you find something that's on the surface doesn't seem that great, but then when you look deeper into it, it's really, really, really amazing. And this is what Dwarf Fortress does. Anyway, we're going to click on Fortress in this instance, and we're just going to go through 2 weeks. So the months are granite, slate, feldsite, hematite. So this is spring, summer, autumn, winter. Now, for your first game of Dwarf Fortress, should you play the tutorial or should you not? I would say yes. And one thing I like about this start that they actually have is it stops the min-maxing to a large degree, because it's automatically giving you a max. You're already up, getting a high-level start without having to do all of the tweaking which we used to have to do in the game. If you did want to have like a really nice place to build a fortress, just click on Start Tutorial. But we're not going to do that. We're going to, of course, skip the tutorial, because the other way of playing the game is to embrace not going min-max. Embrace the differences. Embrace these sorts of variations that you actually have in the game and play with them. Like start lots of fortresses and just sort of have fun with it. I'm going to be going through different ways of approaching the start in this particular video as well. So we're just going to go and skip the tutorial. This will then, so we're now on our own. It says, please heed the Embark warnings about aquifers, salt water, and other hazards. Now, aquifers come in 2 flavors: heavy aquifers and light aquifers. Light aquifers I consider to be a friendly aquifer, as in you can actually make really, really good use of that. If you find that if you're in the desert areas and you find a light aquifer, happy days, you've got your source of water. Like you don't need to worry about anything else at that point in terms of water. If you've got a heavy aquifer, that's a whole other different story. That's very, very difficult to break through. You're going to have to sort of set up pumping, all sorts of different weird and wonderful things. Anyway, we'll see that as we go in. Salt water avoid as well, because that means you're going to have to find fresh water somewhere in the world. Now, there's ways of generating fresh water, but we won't go into that. But just avoid salt water. So avoid the coastlines and avoid swamps that say saltwater marsh. I'll show you those when we get into it. Also, if we click on OK, I've set up an environment that is quite aggressive. And so we've got all these different towers. See how when we've got around surroundings, any time you see surroundings change to a purple color, don't start there if it's your first few forts. Like this is haunted, There's Sinister. There should be Terrifying somewhere in through here as well. Maybe in around this one. Terrifying. They're the 3 types of evil biome. That's an evil biome through there. The evil surroundings. These can really, really rock you if you're new to the game, because there'll be all sorts of very strange things that can happen. For example, it may rain blood, which is not neither here nor there, except that you're going to have blood all over the outside whenever it does rain. It could be that sometimes when you do start these things, you'll actually have a dead forest, and that will generally mean that it's a death biome, and so things will come back to life essentially, or could come back to life. It's very random, but like in the sense of what result you're going to get, because you don't know what that's going to be when you start, but it is consistent. Once you know what sort of biome or evil biome that is, it is consistent. Now, they are a hell of a lot of fun to play in when you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to frustrate you. So don't go into one of these purple surroundings. But if you're up for it and you're used to the game, go for it, because they are really, really good fun. Now, other things we should have a bit of a look at. You'll see down through there, we've got, this is a temperate conifer forest. As I say, there may be some swamps. What's got in through here? This is, we'll just have a bit of a look around the map and see if we can find some marshland that is a saltwater marsh. This is, see how now I'm hovering over this area? This is a temperate saltwater marsh. Now, we wouldn't really want to start in through here either, because of the saltwater aspect. Now, that biome looks like it goes up into a freshwater marsh. That would be fine. It just means there's a lot of standing water, which you can then go and you can do fishing inside those ponds. There's just going to be lots and lots of ponds. But just down this way in the saltwater marsh, it's just going to mean that you're not going to be able to use that water for your own benefit. And similarly on the coastline, you want to sort of avoid those little areas. Other things we should have a bit of a look for is is that if you are wanting to play specific ways, when you start to see, like this looks quite interesting in through here, for example. We've got a thing where there's all these different rivers coming in at one point, and it looks like it's in shrubland in through this side, and there may be waterfalls there, so you can sort of try to find waterfalls. To do that, what you then go and do is you need to sort of find an embark location. In fact, maybe we'll just do that. No, we won't do that yet, but you can find waterfalls. They're interesting. Dwarves love the mist that comes off waterfalls. Other things that are of interest, you probably want to try to avoid anywhere. When we have a look at these areas up through here, I'll just go through what these actually are. So, this is a rocky wasteland. The temperature is warm. Now, warm temperatures will tire your dwarves out a little bit, just a little bit. It's not dramatically bad, but the hotter the temperature, the less work they're going to do, but only a little bit. So I wouldn't even consider that as a problem. That's a temperature. The next one down is trees. Initially, this can be very, very important that you actually have some trees, particularly if you're going into an aggressive type biome, because you will need trees for doing certain things. Now, there's always ways around everything. You can actually end up taking trees like wood with you if you wanted to, but there's always a way around absolutely everything. But when you've got no trees and no other vegetation, essentially you're in a wasteland. And so in that instance, all you can do is you've only got rock and what you can find underground. So it's easier and better, I think, to just go and play in a heavily forested or even just any sort of woodland type area. This is even sparse trees will get you started. I think that for our purposes, we'll find either a heavily forested or just a woodland type area, like this one in through here, for example. So the trees are important for you, particularly in the early starts. Other vegetation moderate. That's sort of like the bushes and shrubs and so on and so forth. The surroundings, as we saw there before, that was when we've got an evil biome. I'll just try to find another one of those again. I can't. There we go. We've got an evil biome around this tower, and so this is like terrifying. As I say, avoid these sorts of locations. So this tower has been built in a sand desert in a rocky wasteland. So there's no trees anywhere around this particular thing. What else have we got? So avoid starting off in little islands. Like you could actually technically start off out through this way and sort of get going in here. But don't do it, because you won't have access to anybody. You won't get invasions. You won't really have much at all that will happen to you at these locations. So try to make sure that you're connected to the main area. You can build in the ice. So you can't build in the oceans, but you can build in the ice, and they're interesting. There's no trees at all, but that's a more difficult sort of start, but fun nonetheless. And then you've also then got tundra as well, which is very similar to ice. But ice, you can ultimately, when you mine the ice, you can then start to build, you can use the ice blocks to build fortifications out of ice, which is sort of fun. It's just a nice little sort of themed way of doing things. Now, you're not allowed to start in mountains. So, if we came up to here, for example, we wouldn't be allowed to start in the middle of a mountain range. We can start on the edge. We just can't start in the middle through here. Now, the other thing to look for as we sort of go back through, I'll talk a little bit about the types of like little soil, light aquifers, and so on and so forth as well. But we'll look at that in just a minute. Below that, you've got neighbours. Now, if we go to places in the world where there's no neighbours, see how when I go to these little islands, I'm not getting anything connected there. It's telling me that there's nobody close enough. That if I just go over to here, suddenly I've got elves, I've got humans, and I've got goblins. So that means that we should be able to have interaction with them as long as they're not too far away. We can go to other places that are more remote. At this location over here, I don't have access to humans anymore, but I have access to elves and goblins. Up through, I'll just see where the goblins actually finish. There's goblins down there, there's elves up through there. So you want to be close-ish if you want to have the interactions with them, and you sort of do. This is interesting. We've now got kobolds there as well, and goblins. And it doesn't say this, but there's a tower close by as well. So that's a fairly interesting one. Kobolds will come and try to steal things from you. Goblins will do that as well, but goblins will actually then sort of send in the big armies against you as well, but kobolds won't. Again, just have a bit of a look around. Here we get at this location. We've got elves, humans, goblins, and kobolds. You don't have to try to find everything, but I do try to at least have elves, humans, and goblins. Sorry, the neighbour's dog is barking outside. Now you can see through here, there's goblins there, but when I go over to here, it's not saying that they're close. I always try to sort of find a site that has got something, like where it's actually basically got a bit of the main three. Now we were looking down into here. This is where we were sort of looking at starting. And so when we have a look through the site here, we've got like things are a short trip north, or like the goblins are very close, half a day travel to humans. If we sort of came down into this area, the goblins are a day's travel north now, 2 days for the others. This is actually even, we've got a glacier down through this side as well, if we wanted to sort of start through here. As I say, don't start in these purple. Oh, there's a calm. Okay, I just noticed it somewhere in here. I'll just see if I can find it again. Where are you? You're right in the very middle of all of this haunted area. There it is, right there. So there's a little area right there of calm. Now this is actually the opposite of evil. This is a good biome. Now there's not very many around. That will actually have events that will happen in the biome that will actually be friendly. So that's actually, like, you can actually go there. There'll be sort of unusual type plants that will be growing there. It's almost magical, but things can still wander in. It doesn't mean you're not going to have a difficult time. It just means that the plants and animals there may be a little bit more sort of like magical in the way that they sort of do things, but in a good way, not an evil way. So anyway, there's some interesting little starts in through there. I don't think there's any other good areas, is there? No, that's calm up there as well. In fact, this is just wilderness back and through this side, back on the other side through here. Okay, so I've gone through all of those. The other thing now we'll have a bit of a look at, at this location, we've got shallow clay, little soil, and a light aquifer. Also, then we have a list of the different types of metals. Now, I tend not to worry too much about trying to find absolutely the best bit of all of this, and also fluxstone as well, which can help you if you need to make steel. So that's what fluxstone is really used for. So shallow clay, little soil. Little soil means that it's going to be a bit harder to find soil for growing. I don't care about that because there's ways around all this sort of stuff, so that doesn't really worry me. Light aquifers are your friend, so you don't want to be shirking away from light aquifers. They're sort of all over the place. What you do want to be avoiding is the heavy aquifers. So you see through here, over in this little instance, we've got like we've got shallow sand, very deep soil, which means that there is actually a lot of soil layers, so very easy for farming. Light aquifer, we've got iron, gold, silver, copper, nickel, zinc, tin, and lead. So that's a lot of different metals in through that one, up through here. That's actually a pretty good mining area in through that sort of area. Again, I tend not to worry too much about that one. I'm sort of used to playing the game now where I'll get hardly anything. This one over through here, we've got iron, silver, copper, zinc, and lead with a light aquifer. It's wilderness surroundings. This is, for me, is sort of where I'm thinking of starting, where we're really close to, we've got all these goblins just sitting back in through this side. Yeah, the temperature is freezing here at this point in time, so this will always be a very, very cold one, which doesn't worry me either. So actually, that's calm again. We keep on finding these calms. I just want to find a place that's not too easy. Now, if we find something like platinum, platinum is very, very valuable. So we may want to start there where we've got some platinum. We do have little soil, shallow clay, iron, silver, copper. We don't have any gold, but that doesn't really matter that much. Again, I guess the important ones that you really want is iron is very important to sort of make sure that you can get your weaponry made out of iron, or silver for warhammers. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the actual game itself. But I quite like the look of this area through here, so I might come back into there in a minute. The other thing that you can do, though, and I do want to point this out because a lot of people don't know that you can do this, is you can actually go through and actually reclaim or unretire different bits and pieces. Now, we were talking about there was, and in fact it's no longer here, so it's now become some sort of, some other group has now moved in there that was Dance Fort or whatever it was called in there before. But in this particular thing, we've got like a heap of different ruins. We can go in and go and reclaim these old ruins. We can see there the history. So a Hydra attacked that one. This one, a Forgotten Beast, attacked this particular one and destroyed it. So we can go back in and reclaim what's already been. This one here is right on a volcano. That's interesting. Wow, that's really interesting. I really want to play this. We've got a bronze colossus that has actually gone in there, and it's right on that volcano. Oh, wow, wow. That would be awesomely good. But anyway, we won't do that. We won't do it. We won't do it. I am so tempted to do that. Geared handles. And this is right in where we were talking about going anyway. But I won't do a volcano start because that's not typical. And particularly if you're just using the defaults, it's going to be very hard for you to find volcanoes. We'll just go back across. We've got another one down this way as well here, actually. So anyway, there's a whole lot of them that you can sort of find where they've been destroyed by different sorts of through war. So in the midwinter of 227, the constructive torches defeated the treasury of wires of the mahogany irons and took over relic cobalt. The new government was called the Turquoise Persuaders, but this is basically now just a ruin. It's been abandoned. So you can just reclaim these, but a lot of these will be then taken over by that was in a war. This one here was in a war as well. So yeah, where was that one? That really, really cool one. Armbook. Armbook was the Bronze Colossus, Rustrum Flagshot. So Rustrum Flagshot, he'll be in the histories. Essentially, how that will actually go and work. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to do a boring stock standard tutorial fort. Oh, I'm so tempted to do this. I mean, I could still do it. Let me know. Let me know if you want me to just at least have a look and see what it looks like. I could just do one episode where I show you what it's like to go into a ruin. We could definitely do that. So let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Okay, we're not going to reclaim. We're going to go and find an embark location. By the way, we probably want to get our mountain homes. Let's go and make this our actual civilization. So if we choose the origin civilizations in through here, we've only got 3 groups of dwarves. So we've got the torch of starting, which is way up the top here. Now we can see there the population. It's important to make sure that you've got like a reasonable population. You don't want to have anything where you've got like just a small number. This is 2,200, and the mahogany irons is 5,400. This is the biggest one with 84 sites. I think we'll start here. We'll sort of end up being right in the very middle of our existing civilization. So there'd be nice close proximity to absolutely everything. So everything in blue is our civilization back up and through here. The king is Savesh Kavashut. So he's the current king. We got 84 sites. This is a big group. Now this is our best start because of the proximity. So let's just go with that one. We could go as the others, but let's just do this. So I think this is more thematic. So we'll start there, and we'll just find an embark location. Now, when we go into this mode of trying to find, not find the embark location. We don't want to do that one. We want to just choose the origin civilization. You have the mahogany irons. We want to go, and now we want to click in. We don't want to actually, finding the embark is how you search for what you particularly want. Now, I'm just going to, as I say, don't get too caught up in trying to find the perfect start. You really don't need to. Just go and we sort of found one that we were sort of pretty happy with in around here somewhere. I'll just right click that one and just have a bit of a look. If we right click, we come back out to here again. I will just make sure that we are, yeah, we still got that one selected, that's fine. We'll just go back in, right click. So you can sort of see when we do come into these areas. I do want to, now I wanted to get, I've got platinum, lead, now we've got shallow clay there. If I just hover around these areas a little bit, we've got ice. Well, I'm going to avoid the ice. I do want to get heavily forested or at least woodland, just to sort of show you, because that's sort of more typical. Other vegetation is thick. Even actually heavily forested has its own problems as well, because it's very hard to see enemies as they come in on your fortress. So they can get really up close before you then notice them. So that can actually cause issues. So heavily forested it will be. We'll go with that way. Shallow clay, little soil, light aquifer, iron, silver, copper, platinum, lead, and a fluxstone layer. So I'm actually happy with this location. Everyone's close by as well, and that's actually what, for me, one of the most important things is making sure that your neighbours, you've got all of those collections of the good and the evil, and that means you're going to have a lot to do, and that's important. Okay, so let's just go across. We'll go and click on this little environment. Now we zoom in. Now we have to make a choice. Like where do we want to go? Like in this particular environment, I can still hover around and have a bit more of a look at different things. Like there's, for example, over in here, this is this haunted biome. It doesn't have an aquifer, but this one over through here does, the light aquifer. We're definitely going to be going light aquifer, and so we can just even have a bit of a look around in here to sort of see. Now the calm areas were up in here. This is like a calm area. This is a calm area as well. So we're not going to be playing that one. This one's got gold, silver, copper, zinc, and lead. I thought I saw even more somewhere. Yeah, iron, silver, nickel, platinum, lead. It doesn't matter much. The most important thing is, and iron seems to be sort of pretty much everywhere in the game at this stage. I think we just go over here somewhere. Heavily forested, thick wilderness. We've got ourselves a dwarven fort back over here, a monastery back over this side. This will be the tower, the dwarven tower, with all the sinister sort of stuff coming out of this one. This will be all the goblin pits back and through here. By the way, these are enemies with each other as well, so don't think that that they're all on the one side. They're not. Now, typically you may sort of start on a forest, sorry, on a river, and that's fine. I think we'll just do that because that's very, very typical for that to actually happen. We can actually have a bit of a look to see if there would be, like often when you have junctions of rivers, there may be a waterfall, and if you just go to show elevation, you can sometimes get a bit of a feel for if there's a bit of steepness in there. And if you go to show cliffs and grade, there's a good possibility that's actually got a waterfall. We might even start there actually. Although having said that, that can be tricky as well, because particularly in a frozen biome like what we're in, it may thaw, and anyone that's on the ice will then drown. So maybe we will avoid that one. So I'll just go to sort of what you would typically sort of look for. Now, when you've got small areas, generally they can walk across those. When you've got bigger rivers, if you get caught in those, you will drown. So this little one that we're looking at down through here actually does work pretty well. I don't think there's any cliffs down through here. No, there's cliffs there actually. Right when it sort of hits this ice, that glacier, right on the edge there. I think I'm happy enough with where that actually is. I'll have a bit of a look around and just have a bit of a search. Actually, I'm really happy with this location. So we'll go with this one. This will be frozen most of the year, the creek. It is only a small creek, which means we should be able to, if anyone does, there should be boulders when it does thaw, which means that we can just walk across. It'll still have water depth. It just will be multi-purpose, essentially. So we'll just go Embark. And again, it's not about min-maxing anything, but let's just go and sort of place that one, say, in here. Again, you could actually sort of decide, okay, look, I want to go in here where we've got some mountains and other things, but I'll just go back over to here. We're sort of along this little creek, and sort of leave it here as our start location, I think. So I'm going to click there. And so it says you've selected an area with a light aquifer. Water might need to be pumped out or carried away. Well, I'll show you how to get through the light aquifer. As long as you've got trees, getting through a light aquifer is really, really easy. Really easy. That'll be next episode. We'll actually go and do that, because that's the first thing we have to do, is actually start that process. I'll talk a little bit about we'll do the aquifer, but I'll also talk about what to be worried about and how to protect yourself from different things and what you've got to focus on. Now, we'll do that in the next episode. As I say, I won't get too involved in that one right now. So we're just going to confirm. We then come back through where we've got like a play now where we just start with whatever we have, and this will then select just default equipment and animals and just the actual start for us. I'm going to play with this because this is what the game actually has as its default start. You can prepare carefully. Now, to do a proper tutorial, I really should sort of go through and actually explain everything in there. But look, I actually like the idea of actually just seeing what you get. Like it's a little bit random, and you always get though like a group of dwarves in these sort of standard starts will do okay. So that's fine. Like, let's just go with it. If we were going into somewhere very, very difficult, you may want to actually then go back through and actually do an actual preparation. But in this case, we're going to be fine. I am going to ramp the enemies up to hard, and I'll show you that later in the game as to where that will go. In fact, I'll show you in the game because you can change this at any time. So you're not beholden to this. This is not just for the start. This just gets you going, but you can always come back and change it. So I think it's more appropriate for me to show that one at some point when we're actually playing. And that's it. We're just going to go and play now and get started. It prepares the map for us, gets everything ready, gets the people there, creates the environment for us. We're in the snow with all the trees. And I'm going to leave it here, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you're going to enjoy this series. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. It's really, really looking forward to doing this one. So I'm loving this game a lot. Definitely one of my favorite games of the year. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next episode where we actually then get to start playing.